right, welcome to the January board meeting. If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the board met, the board met in executive session before this meeting to discuss some personnel and legal issues. Secretary's correspondence?
I have nothing other than to acknowledge the receipt of a letter that I received on behalf of, or to the Great Valley School Board from East Whiteland Township, indicating their intent to raise their local income tax from 0.5% to 1%.
All right, and Ellen, Chester County IU report?
Thank you. The intermediate unit did meet on Wednesday. I was not able to attend due to the road conditions in Charlestown. However, I have gone through the executive content of the meeting, and I will give a full breakdown of everything at our next meeting, if that's okay. I have some questions that I would like to ask them before I disclose. Thank you.
All right. Mary is unable to attend tonight, so we will not have, oh, she's on the phone. Okay, sorry. Mary, you there?
I'm here. I do not have a legislative committee report tonight. We'll have one in full at the next meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mary's dialing in remotely. She wasn't feeling well. Mrs. Armstrong has the flu, so thankfully she stayed home. And Mr. Foray had a previous engagement, so he wasn't able to attend tonight also. So next up is student council reports. Katie Markley's on the list first.
Hello everyone. I'm Gia and I'm the KDM Service Council President.
I'm Aiden and I'm the KDM Service Council Vice President.
I'm Amy and I'm the KDM Service Council Secretary.
I'm Asher and I'm the KDM Service Council Treasurer.
Our KDM Service Council has been very busy this year since the start of our year. Our year first began with a Spirit Week in celebration of the high school homecoming. Our fun Spirit Days included Pajama Day, Wacky Wednesday, Sports Day, and Blue and White Day. The Service Council also participated in the homecoming parade. It was so much fun to parade with the other schools to show our Great Valley spirit.
During October, the KDM students collected money for UNICEF while trick-or-treating. We raised $628.72. Our donations could provide a child with food, safe water, healthcare, and education so they could build a better future. Also, in the fall, during the month of November, we had a Thanksgiving meal collection for local families in need. Teachers donated Thanksgiving meal items such as mashed potatoes, vegetables, stuffing, and pies. The Service Council met to distribute the items into bags, creating entire Thanksgiving meals. Many KDM families benefited from these meals at Thanksgiving.
In December, our Service Council traced and cut over 40 giant paper snowmen for classrooms to decorate. Colorful and creative snowmen filled the halls. Also in December, the 5th grade discussed kindness and started a kindness paper chain. Each chain has an action of kindness written on it. Other grades continued this chain as a symbol of kindness to spread around our school. The chain can be seen decorating the main lobby of our school, as well in the 5th grade hallway.
In the beginning of January, we began to discuss our Safe Harbor project. Safe Harbor is a homeless shelter in Chester County. We started by making kind and encouraging cards for the homeless. We will put these cards in lunches that we will prepare at the end of the month. The bagged lunches will include a sandwich, drink, and snacks and will be delivered to the shelter for the residents to enjoy.
At this time, we would like to thank our school board for their work on behalf of our students, families, and community. We appreciate your dedication and hard work. Because of you, our school is able to provide what we need to grow and learn. A promising future waits for us because of your efforts. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to share with you the great projects that we have accomplished. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing with us everything you do. Oh. Oh, there you go.
Do you all want to come out? Do you all want to come out and get a picture, board members? That would be great, yes. Get a picture. That is great.
All right. Sugartown, are you back there somewhere? All right.
Hello, my name is Rachel Murin, and I am the president of Sugartown Elementary Student Council. First of all, you might be wondering why it is even important to have a student council. Well, Sugartown Student Council helps organize fundraisers and helps spread the word about fundraisers to other classes. Spreading the information helps get everyone ready for them, and this helps raise a ton of money and make everyone aware of things they can do to help. Student Council even helps run holiday raffle fundraisers. Being a member helps students learn how to be creative, help others, and be a leader. We also have a lot of school spirit. Our music teacher wrote a song just for Sugartown, and the whole school sings it at assemblies and cheers. When everyone sings this song, there is a confident and strong feeling in the air. Just like we love to have school spirit, we love and appreciate having a school board. You do so much for us. Thank you for making sure that students have amazing curriculum choices. Not only do you do that, but you also make sure Great Valley is up to date with all the physical education, STEAM, art, music, and all the world's learning tools. You help the Great Valley community be exceptional and learn to give back. You do all of these wonderful things and give a lot of your time and effort. Sugartown thanks you from the bottom of our heart. Before I hand the microphone off to our Vice President, Ryan Rossi, I just would like to say we are all hyped for the Super Bowl.
Hi, my name is Ryan Rossi, and I'm the Vice President of Sugartown Elementary School Student Council. Our school has participated in many school spirit activities. Some of those things include the homecoming parade, where some of student council members marched. Also, we had a Halloween parade for parents to watch. Recently, we had the whole school, even non-Eagles fans, including our principal, all showed our school spirit by having an Eagles green out. We had Action News come and film our pep rally for the birds. This was a great model of community spirit. Some student council members have started a school newspaper. The purpose of this is so the whole school knows what is going on throughout the grades. And I would now like to pass up the mic to our treasurer, Will Mack. Go Eagles.
Hi, my name is Will Mack, and I am in 5th grade, and I am the Sugartown Student Council Treasurer. I'd like to tell you about some of the fundraisers and service projects Sugartown has had for our close community and larger communities in need. In October, we had a Halloween raffle. We got a lot of money from all of the kind and caring kids at Sugartown. In December, we had a holiday raffle. At that raffle, we got a lot of money from the students like we did at the Halloween raffle. We used that money to buy new things for the school, like textbooks. That will help with the all of the students learning, as you can tell. At our holiday parties, all of the classes helped out with service projects for different organizations. They made cards for the veterans, and they made holiday ornaments for the children at the Children's Hospital. In November, we had a non-perishable food drive for our community. We collected over 50 bags filled with donations from the caring kids at Sugartown and the whole Great Valley School District. All of the donations from all of our schools were distributed by our food service department. In October, we collected over $600 from the Trick or Treat for UNICEF Foundation. The kids at Sugartown did a great job with collecting money. And now, here's Abby, our secretary, to explain what is coming up next at Sugartown.
Hello, my name is Abby Zilber, and I'm the Student Council Secretary of Sugartown Elementary. Today, I want to discuss with you the upcoming events at Sugartown. We are currently collecting for the Leukemia Foundation until the end of January. In February, we will be having pencilgrams. Pencilgrams are pencils that you can buy for just 50 cents each. You get a paper heart in which you can write a message or just write the person's name, class, and who it's from. It's a gift from one person to another. The money that we make will go to the American Heart Association as part of our Jump for Life challenge that we will be participating in during the month of February. Another thing that Sugartown will be participating in is the Jump for Heart in February. Our focus for this is on healthy kids and staff. We will all take the challenge to either drink more water, exercise for 60 minutes, eat more fruits and vegetables in meals, or we can do all three. We will close this event with a big jump-off day in the gym. In addition to all these events, we will also have great concerts coming up that we all love to hear and participate in. Our music teacher, Mr. Walter, makes us a great show that everyone, kids, parents, and even staff, love to watch. We will also have Dr. Seuss Night in March and the Spring Fair in May. There is almost always something happening in Sugartown, and you are always welcome to come and enjoy the fun with us. Thank you for having us tonight, and again, thank you to the school board for all you do.
Thank you very much. All right, before you guys leave, real quick, we'll have our high school representative tell us what's going on in the high school, because I know he wants to leave because he's got finals tomorrow. Or midterms, I guess.
That's going to be a very tough act to follow. I also went to Sugartown, and I can attest that that song is always a fun thing for me to sing. If you guys remember back in December, you had people sing and perform for you. I was up there singing the song with you. Like Mr. Barrett said, it is that time of the year. There are two things that bring students together: Eagles games and midterms. Right before here, I was at Starbucks, and I could say that there were probably 20, 25 other students surrounding laptops, textbooks, and everything you can imagine preparing for our tests tomorrow. That's the big thing that's going on in the high school. Also, I heard you guys say something about Dr. Seuss. The High School Drama Guild announced its musical, and it's going to be Seussical, the musical. Cast lists are all out, and their shows are going to be in mid-April, so I'd ask everyone, please attend. It's a great experience for everyone. Besides that, I am currently studying right now, and I am very excited for this week to be over. So thank you guys so much.
All right, thank you. I will let all of you gather your parents and leave if you want, or you can stay and be bored for a while. Tyler, you can leave too if you want.
Thank you.
All right. Other reports? Seeing, you have another report? Goals. I was going to read that later, but
Yes.
we can do goals. The school board is in the process of opening and starting negotiations. Excuse me. One of the things we do every time we have negotiations is we try to establish goals of what we're trying to achieve for the district through the negotiations. So tonight we'll be looking to hopefully approve 4 goals. One is to negotiate a contract that allows the district to continue to allocate funds for the preservation and protection of high-quality programs that are hallmarks of the Great Valley School District and necessary for the district's continued success. This includes continued emphasis on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math curriculum, technology advancements, support for the arts, and the possible implementation of full-day kindergarten program in the future. Implement a healthcare plan that provides fair coverage for the employees, but also helps to lower its geometric increases in healthcare premiums to the school district. Great Valley has seen a 46% increase in healthcare costs over the last 3 years. Third, remain competitive by offering a comprehensive compensation package that continues to attract and retain high-quality teachers. And fourth, provide parameters that maximize employee time and professional development while offering a supportive and collaborative working environment. So those are the goals we came up with, and we will have to vote on them later and improve them as part of the agenda items and any discussions at that point. So any other reports? All right, school recognition? School board recognition?
Yes, January is School Director Recognition Month, and on behalf of myself and Mr. Linderman and the entire school district, thank you so much to our board members who are here, Mary, who is on the phone, Jen and Phil, who are home. Thank you so much. And by each of your seats are some very small gestures of appreciation from all of us to each of you. So thank you very much.
All right, next up on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Once again, many, many things are happening through the district, and this is just a small sampling. If any of you, as this is coming up, as the superintendent's report is coming up, prior to the Wellness Committee report. We can do a switch. Why don't we start with the Wellness Committee report, because they're there. They're ready to go. We'll switch to that. Okay? Thank you. This is one of the amazing things that has been happening in the district.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just want to start by introducing ourselves. My name is Dustin Casper. I teach health and physical education here at Great Valley.
My name is Emily Brasky. I'm a teacher on assignment with the Special Education Office here at Great Valley.
And so for the next couple minutes, we just want to tell you about the Wellness Committee that we have established here at Great Valley School District and what it is we do, how we do it, and why we're so awesome.
So this slide just contains our mission of the Wellness Committee. The main goal of the committee is to provide opportunities for everyone in the Great Valley School District community, teachers, staff, students, family, everyone here, to initiate, maintain, and improve a personal sense of wellness, whatever that might be for the individual.
So our structure looks pretty much identical to most other committees here in the district. We have 2 committee chairs. Each building distributes or sends 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 representatives to the district level to represent the building and the needs of the building. And at a district level, we meet once per month, but on the building-specific level, they meet whenever they feel it's necessary.
So this slide contains some information about what we do as a committee. There's a lot on here, so I'll go through it piece by piece. I could go into a lot of it in a lot of detail, but I won't do that right now. Obviously, the first piece that we do is to just whatever we can to provide wellness opportunities for the community. Some things that we have done are establish some partnerships with community vendors like ACAC, the YMCA, Jamba Juice, Club Pilates. We're currently working with Club Pilates right now, where teachers are enjoying intro classes every Friday, and we've had really great feedback about that. We have discounts at ACAC and the YMCA. We have organized, what? Oh, and yes, thank you. Just today we met with Orange Theory to see what kind of partnership we could create with them. So we're eager to see what comes of that. We last year implemented our first ever Patriot Pride 5K run and mile fun walk, which was a really big success last year. And we're hoping for even bigger this year. We're going to be partnering with GVCO and the Helping Hands organization through them. We are working with 2 student leaders at the high school. They're wonderful, and they come to our district office meetings to provide the student perspective and give their input about what we could do to help the student wellness. And from time to time, we'll request data from the teachers just to find out what could be positive future endeavors.
So a teacher at Sugartown Elementary, Todd Riddle, just received his doctorate, Dr. Todd Riddle, and his dissertation was on workplace wellness programs and the effect that they have on teachers and students, particularly teachers. So those 4 bullet points, I'm so grateful for Dr. Riddle's work. He kind of put his lit review all in 4 bullet points. So essentially what took him about probably 6 to 9 months of work, he graciously did for us in about 4 bullet points. But I mean, I'm not going to read it word for word, but it's there that we as in a teaching profession, whether you're staff or teachers, it's a pretty stressful situation, and I think what is worth highlighting there is the last part of the first bullet point. It's emotionally strenuous because we have emotions around our clients. I mean, we're here for the kids, but at the same time, it can cause significant amounts of stress. Jumping down to the 3rd bullet point there, but his research shows that there is a significant relationship between wellness and the ability to cope. And the 4th one, the one I enjoy the most, it talks about that workplace wellness programs becoming increasingly relevant with rising healthcare costs, 2nd goal, and preventative medicine. Even the National Physical Education Organization that I belong to, I get an email every day about the forums that we have. One is about teaching, but they've created a new forum about just establishing their own workplace wellness campaigns within their own schools. So it's becoming increasingly more popular.
So Dr. Riddle conducted a study here at Great Valley. 28% of Great Valley's teaching staff participated in this 32-question survey. 5 teachers also participated in a 6-question interview. And Dustin's going to go over the very, very brief partial results of that survey on the next slide.
So his results, in general, physical wellness, lowest perceived. Emotional wellness, identified as most important. And just by participating in our wellness program, connected to an increase in physical, occupational wellness, and job satisfaction.
As far as wellness program participation, 3 of the highest motivators that Dr. Riddle found were the insurance incentives, improving health in general, and relaxation. The limiting time for those who wanted to participate in wellness programs was lack of time across the board. I mean, everyone is busy. So that was the biggest limiting factor.
Some initiatives. We had an in-service wellness day that was well received amongst teachers and staff. We have a wellness fair. We have building level initiatives, which I think are some of our most powerful initiatives. A lot of teachers getting on board with that and either, again, like the mission statement said, maintaining, initiating, or improving their sense of wellness. Some ideas for the future, exercise opportunities after school, additional planning time, collaboration time, and lessening those work demands. And these are Dr. Riddle's references. I think the takeaway is we're only 2 years into this, and already we're seeing amazing results, both in our kids and in our teachers and in our staff. So we just look forward to many more years of good hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so you came up with the survey. You had the person do the survey. And it says here that 28% of the teaching staff participated. That was it offered to 100% of the teaching professionals?
I believe it was. That was Dr. Riddle's separate research for his program. that he shared with us.
Correct. And to my knowledge, it was an email invitation, so it was completely voluntary.
Yes.
It just has a way of kind of skewing the results when you get 28% of the group that participated. I'm disappointed. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, but thank you. A lot of great work. Thank you. I think
Thank
it's
you.
very valuable effort, even though there wasn't much participation in the survey.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
I also just want to say, I know, I'm sure many of us remember, but for the new board members who were not here last year, Dustin Casper was the Pennsylvania Teacher of the Year last year for physical education, and he has really taken, there's no doubt as to why he was the recipient of that award. And he and Emily have done a great job of, and Eve Henwood last year was also part of leading this group. I know that the numbers don't show the value, but you can definitely feel and see the value of all the work you're doing, and I greatly appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Thank you. It's the mystery presentation.
Hello, my name is Jason Rasmussen. I'm the Supervisor of Instructional Technology. I'm here with Abby Linderman, the Elementary Supervisor, and two dedicated, wonderful fifth grade teachers. And we're excited to share a little bit more about the one-to-one program and its rollout in the elementary schools. And I'd like to take the time to thank Dr. Speaker Paul Binsky and the board for inviting us to present on the one-to-one program and the opportunity to share some of the wonderful things that are happening in our classrooms. What these teachers are doing in their classrooms takes a lot of risk and a lot of trial and error. And not every teacher is at the point that they are, but we have two gifted and talented instructional technology specialists in Alyssa Demitis and Tracy Whiteman that also provide a lot of support to our teachers and to help all of our teachers progress as they kind of learn how to use instructional technology in the classroom. The things that these teachers are going to be presenting and sharing would not be possible without the one-to-one technology program. And the way that they're engaging and interfacing with students just wouldn't be able to happen if we didn't have the iPads in the classroom. And so kind of to give you a little bit of the structure of the presentation, we have two fifth grade teachers. The first, one of the teachers is Ms. Michelle Mariani. She teaches at Charlestown, and she's in the second year of implementing the one-to-one program. She's been a strong influence in the use of technology in the district. She helped support the use of technology in our tech camp the first year we offered it, and she's been an active and participating member of the app committee. The other teacher is Bob Stewart from Katie Markley Elementary School. He's in his first year of implementing the one-to-one program after previously teaching third grade. But Bob has always embraced technology and pushed the use of technology, and he's finding, even in his first year, innovative and wonderful ways to use technology in the classroom. And with that, we'll turn the time over to Mr. Stewart. Down. To go to the next.
All right. It'll be an adventure. Yeah. Thank you. And you're going to be playing something today, Chuck, too. So I'll let you know. Not yet. All right. Let's get going here. So, am I on the right side? I went the wrong way. There we go. All right. Down is up. All right. So iPads have delivered an educational platform that addresses different learning styles, first and foremost. I think it really helps with children with visual and auditory learning. Students can show what they know through different means now. Now we're looking at video presentations, speech to text, things such as that. I've had students before that may not feel comfortable in front of a large classroom audience to share their learning. So being able to record some of their presentation and push them out to the teacher, to classmates, has been godsend for us. It really, as an educator, my number one goal is to know, did the kids get it? And obviously iPads are providing me with that opportunity to know whether or not they understand the content that's being instructed. Just checking a few things here. Another benefit of this is that the children are learning how to archive classroom work and resources. So one of the things I started at the beginning of the year, I don't know about you with your own personal technology use, but my little pet peeve is when I go to help someone with their computer, if their desktop is just full of all these different documents, it kind of, it's kind of like watching hoarding on TV. I can't manage that well. So one of the first things we learn is to organize ourselves. So we create folders for all of our content areas by marking period. OneDrive is wonderful for that because not only can they access it on the iPad, but if something comes up, they can access it from their home computer or a loaner computer, and their parents can also access everything that they have. So if we're working on a system where all the materials are organized into folders, the accessibility is wonderful, the communication is wonderful. Other devices that we use, we've started the use of Outlook Calendar. So the children, 5th graders, are setting up reminders for themselves on when projects are due, when events are coming up, like a Spirit Day for the Eagles, those kinds of things. So, and finally, Canvas, and I think Ms. Mariani will speak further about the application and use of Canvas and how that can help as an organizational tool. All right, enough with that one. Next one. How is student learning different with technology integration? Well, I would say number one, it provides a platform for increased student accountability. Communication is key in teaching. The interaction among students and between teachers and students has increased tenfold. A long time ago, we lived in an environment where a question would be asked, children would raise their hand, and one child would respond, and the rest would shut off at that point. As tech moved along, there was a point where we had whiteboards, and the kids could hold up a whiteboard and show their response, so everyone was sharing responses. What's wonderful now with iPads is that we have the ability for all children to share, to have a platform to share, a public platform to share, and to be able to communicate and give feedback to each other, along with me being able to give feedback in a very timely manner to address any children's specific needs. There's one thing about walking around the room, but the fact that I can see student engagement by just looking at an app on my computer in real time has been wonderful to do that. And we'll talk more about some of those apps that exist, like Classroom app, where I can observe their computers all at once. It's kind of creepy, but cool at the same time. All right, some of the applications that have been used with one-to-one. Dreambox has been an app that we've been using for a few years. The district has bought the rights to Dreambox. It's great in reviewing math skills and working with the children. I can push out different assignments with them based on where we are in instruction. I can challenge students. There can be some differentiation with the use of that. Another one that I use is Biblionasium. It's a free app, and it gives the children the ability to record their reading and to share out their thinking on books. So it's a modern day version of a reading log. What's cool about it is I can do some great data collecting with it. I can set parameters and see how much reading they've been doing, what reading level they are on, and how that matches with the types of books that they're selecting. I can provide feedback for them, respond to their responses, and children have the ability to respond to each other's responses. So another one that we'll talk more about, Miss Marina will, is Seesaw, as one of those apps that we use. Move along here. In general, I appreciate a lot of these apps, and I think one of the great benefits of all this is the ability for me to eliminate wasted time. So I can spend more targeted time on remediation and enriching the students as needed. It is a wealth of data. Stephen O'Toole here. Yeah. And figuring out what data to use is key. And I think the more that we explore and use these one-to-one technologies, we'll be able to see what really matters and how we can use it. And I'm starting to see that right now with a few of the apps that I mentioned before is what I can do with that information. Like Dreambox. Dreambox is a wonderful resource where I can see right away where the child's readiness is. So when I deliver instruction in the classroom, I can reach them right at their target. How has it affected impact on engagement? Well, this is where I get a little creepy here. Air Server is one of these wonderful things. Children, I have the ability to look at their screens, see what they're doing with their work, and then project it onto the smart board. I also have the ability to lock all their computers simultaneously, which is wonderful. I have the power then, you know. So if I need them to key in on something specific that's being taught in the front of the room, having that one little click on my one computer has been wonderful. And just the flexibility of children being able to share their work quickly and in one little click also, and I can project each child's screen onto the board for them to share out. It's been great. I want to share with you some examples of some of the work that the children have been doing using various applications. The first one here, and Chuck, I'll direct you in a second. Traditionally, you know, in learning, children would speak in front of a class. They might make a poster, and the poster might be hung up in the wall in the hallway. With the one-to-one now, the children are able to create theirs at school, at home, and present it out to the classroom. This was a quick food chain that one of my students made using something called Shadow Puppet. So, Chuck, if you can click on that, you can see. And the dark black part on the bottom, horizontal, there you go, to the left. There.
My food chain. Grasses are producers. They are a food resource for primary consumers like rabbits. Rabbits are primary consumers and eat grass and other plants. Primary consumers get the most energy of all. This is a red fox. Red foxes are secondary consumers and eat primary consumers like rabbits. The red foxes get less energy than the primary consumers. This is a gray wolf. Gray wolves are tertiary consumers and they eat secondary consumers like red foxes. They get even less energy than the secondary consumers. This is a decomposer, and they break down the tissues of dead organisms.
So that's one example, you know, and for me as an instructor, you know, not every kid can share simultaneously, but they can create something. I can warehouse it. I can look at it at a later date when I'm watching the Eagles game. I can check over it, see if they got it. I'm like, all right, it's cool. You can press play on this one right now. Another example, here we're using PowerPoint on iPads, and this was more a project where we explored different biomes. So the student did some research on this topic and was able to compile some information. It's very beautiful, the presentation of how you can put all this together. And once again, this would have just been, you know, a show it, you know, here's a poster, here's a drawing. Maybe they cut out pictures from a magazine, put them on it to show it. So far different way for us to share our learning. All right. This one was using iMovie, and it was in social studies class, and the children were beginning to learn about immigration. So you can go ahead and click on this one. They created a timeline of this family moving from Russia to New York. So something like that would have just looked like your standard timeline. They're putting a couple events on the timeline. Maybe they're drawing a little picture on a poster board, that kind of thing. So it shows a little different way. We have a lot more to share now. So I'm going to walk away.
The down one. Thank you. Try it out. Okay, so my next slide here, oh, I thought it was up there already. Okay, enhancing instruction with the iPad. Obviously, one of our main goals is to have student-centered learning and have a higher level of engagement with the students. So we can stray from the text more often and engage our students in content through multiple apps, websites, presentations, videos, primary resources. Students have a choice, and that's really what we want, multiple avenues for their learning experiences. They can choose how they want to show what they've learned or a concept that they've learned that day and be able to share it with other students for them to review later. An air server, as Mr. Stewart touched upon, is the ability where students can mirror their work, and that has been awesome. The students have loved it, and we've seen an increase in engagement and kids raising their hands and participating in class because they can just mirror it right to our smartboard, and they can move it around, add things if we're typing and we're annotating something, or if we're adding to a math concept. So that has been amazing. Promoting self-motivation, so our ownership of learning takes place where students are excited to take a concept of what they've learned and dive deeper into their interests. For example, in our environments unit, we had a student who was really interested in our environments unit and went home and found a caterpillar in her garden and decided to make a PowerPoint presentation and use research that she had right at her fingertips to come back to the class and ask to present it. So they're really extending their learning beyond the classroom, which has been amazing for them as well. Like I mentioned before, they can take and present to the class using, these are various ones that we use most often. Mr. Stewart touched upon PowerPoint and iMovie, but Bamboo is also an application where students can write on there. We use it primarily in math right now, and there's a graph paper on there. So that's been great. They can screenshot what they've learned, and I'll talk about Seesaw in a little bit, and I can see what they've done. And Tutastic is similar to iMovie in a way where they can explain what they've learned using a cartoon. So my students like to take a math concept and turn it into a cartoon and explain what they learned. Okay. Extending learning to the home. This has been one of the really coolest things for me to be able for parents to kind of see what they're doing at home in the classroom every day. So they can easily access classroom work at home. And Mr. Stewart said I would touch upon Canvas. Canvas is a platform where we have everything housed for our curriculum. So books, materials, videos, articles, and they can access that at home as well, and their parents can see what they're learning. The Canvas discussion board has been great because whether it's science or social studies, they can pose a question and they can discuss at home with other students about and extend the learning from the day. It's also been great. We do book clubs with our fiction and fantasy units, and I'm able to target and differentiate their different needs based on the groups that they're in and the books that they're reading. So I can really put a question that is perfect for that one group of students as opposed to another, and they can conversate over that. It helps build organizational skills. Everything's housed in one iPad for them. So it's helped a lot of students who have trouble keeping their materials organized. And like Mr. Stewart also mentioned too, the announcements that come up. One of my students was really excited to see when I post homework and kind of set it up for our classroom. So they gave them an opportunity to play around with the iPads and have a leadership role in that. Go to the next slide. Activity-based learning, it's been great just to have, they're able to access so much right at their fingertips. Recommended websites by our math coach, Leslie Arsenal, has given us some really great websites where we can differentiate learning with our students in math. Dreambox, we talked about. QR codes have been another huge one, whether we're doing breakout EDU games or stations. We also had in our inventors unit, students made their own invention. And they took a snapshot of the poster that they made, but then explained their invention in their own words. And we were able to put a QR code with that out in the hall. Parents were able to utilize that during conferences with their own phones, and other classes were able to come by and do that as well and listen to what we've presented. Seesaw has been an amazing app that I just started using this year. It touches upon these three things are what we use it for most. It's an app where we can post student work, teacher feedback, and a huge communication tool. So in the next few pictures, I'm going to reference how we use Seesaw. So this is just some pictures of student work. We're annotating an article. They're writing a literary essay. They snapshot it, and we're able to upload it to Seesaw. I can approve it if I want parents and other students to see it. I can also leave feedback for them from the day, and their parents get to see what they're doing in school. These are from lessons that I've taught and anchor charts we have hanging around the room. Students snapshot these and post them to their individual files in Seesaw. And as they are working on something in class, they can kind of put it up on their iPad and utilize it, and it helps with their homework at home because they can have exactly what we talked about during the day. Just some other examples. The picture with the math work on the left is when I was able to snapshot some pictures, and students were able to decide what they wanted to do for math homework that night. So that gave them a choice as to what math homework based on the lesson they felt comfortable with and wanted to show. And then on the other side is when some math work that they did during class that they were able to upload to me, and I could provide feedback and see what they did. And the last bottom picture there is an exit ticket that they were able to upload to me at the end of class. We also were able to use the time-lapse video for their plants. We have an environment unit where we discuss and analyze how plants survive in different environments. So they were able to kind of show in a time-lapse video different things that happen in different environments and take pictures and upload it and save it. And this Post-it note is an example of an informal assessment based on theme that I could see what students got from the lesson and who understood what we were talking about quickly. I wrote on my iPad. This is just, I think, a testament to how much the Seesaw in general and the iPad have been a communication tool for parents. A parent put this on their social media site and took a picture and sent it to me in my email and said, I just wanted to thank you for the work that you're doing, and I'm getting to see my students' work in real time every day. And I'm not just, hearing about it, I'm able to see it. And I think we all liked the hashtag when technology is used for good. So. And Jason, Mr. Rasmussen, touched upon how I was a part of the app committee, and that was really, I think, critical for me my first year with the iPads. I'm able to test out the apps in the classroom with my students and bring that feedback back to them in our meetings and talk about what we thought was best for the classroom. So, me too. Happy. Thank you.
All right, so as you can see, these are two outstanding examples of the one-to-one implementation occurring in our elementary buildings. Without each student having their own iPad, a lot of this would not be occurring, because in previous years, if you think about it, you had to sign out a cart. You then had to find the cart somewhere in the room. You had to bring it to your classroom, and that was all before even instruction could begin. So if you had trouble finding the cart, you may have ran a few minutes late, wheeling it down the hallway. But now, with each student having a device, it's a seamless integration to help enhance the instruction. And as we look forward, we will be monitoring the skills and knowledge that students gain through the one-to-one program and how it will impact technology courses, especially at the secondary level. We are currently discussing the need to increase the depth of what students are able to do, and we'll continue to work with the technology teachers to revise the curriculum as students continue to move up grades with more knowledge on how to use the technology. So again, I want to thank the board and Dr. Speaker Polovinsky for inviting us to present, and to Mr. Stewart and Ms. Mariani for giving us a peek into their classrooms. Are there any questions?
Yes, Abby, I have a question. So, now I understand I'm old, but I got an iPhone, and before I really understood it, I threw it in the bottom of my pocketbook. Now that I understand it and I actually can command it, I absolutely love it. So my question to you is, are all our children on the same level? Do they have the command of these devices? And if not, because I know they don't all come to us on the same level. And yes, a 6-year-old can operate them, but not every 6-year-old. So my question is, are they all on the same level with the devices? And if not, do we have something in place definitive to support them, to get them so that they're all having the same wonderful experience?
Yes, and I can start to touch upon that, and then Jason can elaborate. So with our instructional technology specialists, Alyssa and Tracy, that Jason had mentioned earlier, they are constantly in contact with teachers and going into classrooms. I know in the beginning of the year, they actually instructed students on how to use the iPads and certain features that would be necessary to at least begin the year, and they're constantly going into classrooms to supporting. They also ran a tech camp that kids came to that could learn to use the device earlier. Then the school year began, so that they kind of came with that prior knowledge of being able to. I don't know if Jason, did I?
think
Sorry.
the points that I would have made, but it's honestly the ability that our students have to use technology and kind of the way that we're able to level the playing field has a lot to do with the talent of the instructional technology specialists, Alyssa and Tracy, and the work that they put in to kind of provide that support. And just kind of to build off the idea of the technology camp is just a really fun way for students to get exposure to the iPad and to see how it can be both educational and fun and engaging to use the iPad as a learning device.
And that is And the technology camp is an ongoing thing. Do we do that every year or?
So the technology camp is an ongoing thing. It's something that we offered with the first rollout. Initially, we offered it for 5th and 9th grade students. And actually, the last 2 years, this upcoming year, we're probably going to just offer it for 5th and incoming 4th grade students. So they will be receiving the devices. And we had about 1/3 of the 5th grade class was able to participate in the technology camp. And one of the things that you'll find when students use technology is that they're very comfortable kind of sharing. In fact, not only are they comfortable, but they're eager to share the things that they learn and the abilities that they have with their classmates. And kind of both years, we found that the teachers were really encouraged by the students that they had in their class and were able to use them as a resource to help their classmates if they were struggling with maybe a skill or something that they needed to be able to do.
Thank you. Very well answered, both of you, and a great initiative. The team's working hard, and I like the presentation. Thank you.
I've got a follow-up question. I'm jealous of all this great stuff. I'd love to be able to use some of these things. Can I come to the classroom and play? And learn, not play. You just mentioned the social interaction a little bit and how the kids are happy to share, and that's a question I had was, in one of the presentations, I think it was Mr. Stewart, you mentioned that you can project any kid's work onto the board at any time. So that's a totally different way of interacting than in the past. Are the kids at ease with their work being projected? Do you find they have to learn to kind of be different together? And then related to that, I also saw that they could take photographs with Seesaw, right? You're taking pictures of work, but do you find issues with them taking pictures of each other? I mean, how do it allows for a new social kind of construct in the classroom, and I'm interested in how that works out.
That's, I guess, quite a few questions.
Yeah.
The first part is the interaction. I can speak to it a little bit. I may have you guys kind of add as well. But I think that students in some ways are maybe more comfortable sharing, especially when they've kind of had time to work something out on the device first. I don't know if that's your experience, if you guys would agree with that. But then the other element is the photographs and sometimes how do we make sure they manage and use it properly? And we do have as part of the one-to-one program, we have a handbook that all students are required to sign that kind of lays out the rules, especially using things like photographs to kind of let them know what the expectations are. And so if like anything, if it's being abused, it's just usually it's handled as part of the discipline of the classroom or the building level if need be. So I don't know, did I answer all your questions?
You did. I just thought there's a new dynamic with all of this, and those were a couple of the aspects, and you did. And it's I mean, it sounds like that it's very beneficial overall, but there's just some new things involved. Yeah.
I had a few comments and questions too.
First, did we run out of space in Tech Camp, or were we able to accommodate every fifth grader who wanted to attend? If we did run out of space, is there any way that it could be expanded so that more children could attend? The reason why I'm asking is because I feel like often the kids that are already good at accessing technology are on the button and the first to sign up, and the ones that are not as exposed to technology might be shut out because they're not as quick to read their emails, or I'm just.
That's a great question. So a few things kind of related to the technology camp. We were able to offer the technology camp and pay for the support of the teachers as part of a grant from the foundation. And so that is a limiting factor in how many people we can have. It's definitely something that we can look at. And
do we know how many we turned away, just out of curiosity?
Well,
Like,
so-
you said a third attended, so did another third want to come and not be able to, or?
No, I honestly don't think it was that much. I think we were pretty close to the 100, or did we not turn anyone? So actually, no, we didn't turn anyone away.
It's just helpful to know, because anecdotally you hear one thing, and then to hear it
Yeah.
from you guys, I hear
So,
different things.
but related, what we did do is we had kind of a window, and we closed it, and I think we actually ended up, like a window of time by when you needed to sign up, we closed it, and I think we did have some people that wanted to after, and we were able to allow them, so.
My next question is, I love hearing about the positives, so thank you for highlighting those. However, as a school board member, I also really like to hear about the negatives. So when I see this, I think it's amazing, but when time is spent on the devices, it takes away time from other things. So questions are, have we noticed any problems with handwriting? And perhaps more importantly, have we noticed any problems when the kids get to the high school and need to take notes? Are they able to, work their brains in a way that they can still take paper notes as needed? Or is that a skill which is being lost as we move more towards? And the reason I'm asking this is because in the back of my head is always like, are we doing enough to prepare kids for college? And I'd be curious right now in college whether notes are primarily taken on electronic devices or by hand, because if they're by hand, then I think that this is still a skill which we need to make sure isn't lost.
So that's a great question. I think one of the things that you're going to find in a lot of colleges is that they are also kind of embracing technology, especially as a way of kind of disseminating information and having students get information. In terms of the notes, I think that's an excellent point. And one of the things that you probably noticed in the presentation that especially Miss Mariani's class is she had that math homework, and the students were still able to write the math homework by hand and then take a picture. So I don't think that you view it as like technology is the only way that students have access to share information. It just opens up kind of multiple modalities of how you can share the information, and gives them maybe a bunch of different ways that they can report or share out.
In my dream world, I would love to be able to survey students who left Great Valley recently and ask, now that you're in college, what do you wish had been taught, or what skills do you need in college that would have been great to be emphasized more in Great Valley? And I just really worry about note-taking, because I feel like that's often something that doesn't get stressed. And that I'm just flagging it as a personal interest, but I'm one of 9 up here, so, but thank you.
Thank you all so much. Interestingly, I'm just looking in the back at Pat, because I know the high school informally gets a lot of that feedback, and we can certainly formalize that feedback from our graduates at both the 3 and 5 year.
And I was going to say, being the treasurer of the Alumni Association, we can definitely, I know we have a large coming of at least students that just graduated last year. That'd be something that we could put on our agenda to do, is to try to survey students that are.
I mean, don't do it just because I want it.
Well, no, but it is good information.
But
yeah.
I just, in the back of my head is always like, is this something which is helping people in college and, a force for positive? Or is it just another toy that we're going to get all addicted to and, sit here and, yeah.
So just one more thing. I'm sorry, because you had expressed your concern about the note-taking specifically. I think that one of the really powerful applications that we have as part of the one-to-one program or just as part of Office 365 is OneNote. And that gives students the ability to kind of take their notes, like I said before, in multiple modalities. And what I really love about it, as someone that kind of always had the really messy binder in high school that I couldn't find anything that I needed, is it's all in one place, it's searchable, it's really a great, powerful resource. And in fact, I'm sorry, Mr. Hess is in the back, but I was in Mr. Hess's class the other day, and one of his students was using OneNote to organize her notes, and I was impressed because it looked like a textbook. I mean, she had organized it in such a way that it looked more like a page from a textbook than a student's notes scribbled on a page. So I think that the potential is there. It's just kind of how we encourage students to use it. Thanks.
I actually have one follow-up question. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. On the teacher side, I heard that there's a lot of auditory components to this now, right? You can listen to a child reading, you can listen to a presentation. How does that affect the teacher's ability to review and correct work? I mean, I imagine it's quite different than, correcting written homework. Is it?
That's a great, would you guys?
Time-wise too, I would imagine it's just a different.
It goes with designing a rubric. So having a really good rubric can be a guideline for assessing and giving feedback and being a communication tool, because we're still teaching little kids too. So parents want to get feedback too, other than a grade. So it's the rubrics that we design that can help out. And Stephanie, about the note-taking part, like I'm multitasking right now and I'm setting up the notes for tomorrow. So I set up templates every day for the children, but there is a lot of free-form space within there, so they're still taking notes. And the benefit of all this too is I'm modeling note-taking with the kids. So if I do have a child that misses class or isn't the best note-taker in the world, I have my notes as a push out to the kids too, as a fail-safe catch for them. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I just have to say, as to the team for presenting, to the team that supports, to the teachers that implement, to the foundation that provides the funds for the tech camps and for the extras, the thought, it takes a village. It is truly amazing to see the village in action in our classrooms, and our students are incredibly fortunate. I thank the teachers for their courage to share and bring your classrooms to life for us a little bit. The next best thing is actually being there and seeing the wonderful things that are happening in the classrooms. And it really is amazing, but it takes that village to bring all the pieces together, because truly the technology is just a means to an end. It certainly isn't the goal. So I thank you so much for a great presentation. I also wanted to say before we move on that presentation, I know this was a recommendation by, I believe it was Mr. Barrett, and then also reinforced at the Instructional Technology Committee meeting. I don't know if Mary's still on the phone, but just a shout out to framing that presentation for Dr. O'Toole. I know Mary was very helpful in working with Dr. O'Toole and Ms. Beck in making that happen, so a big thank you. Now, on to the superintendent's update. This is just a snapshot in time to some of the amazing things that are happening across the district, and we're going to cross years here a little bit because some of these things actually happened in 2017. As you can see, the Senator McGarrigle offers a Citizen of the Month award to all of his constituent areas. And two of our students, Josh Spees at the high school and Leo Hawk at the middle school, were both acknowledged by Senator McGarrigle. And it was truly such a wonderful, I thank the administrators at each of those buildings. It was a surprise to the students. So they were called to the principal's office for what they thought was a mystery conversation. And when they arrived with a large contingent of folks to take pictures and to congratulate them, and it was actually someone who nominated them from within the district. And it was really beautiful to hear their stories as to how they were nominated, and the humility of both of our students in that effort was beautiful. And a big thank you to Senator McGarrigle for taking the time to acknowledge our students. And in December, we had the Desmond students host the senior luncheon, and this is a real big hit every holiday season. And it was so interesting to sit with some seniors who this maybe was their 20th year of attending the luncheon. I was sharing with some of the folks at the luncheon. I was actually in Wegmans prior to the luncheon, and a woman came up to me and thanked me for sending the invitation. She had been waiting to receive her invitation to the luncheon. When I shared with her that I really don't send, that it's the students who host this and send the invitations, she said, it is the highlight of my year, and I so look forward. When I think I'm not going to make another year, I know when I make it to the Desmond luncheon, I've made it another year. So it truly is a very special event, and our students do an amazing job. The National Honor Society induction, this was the largest group ever inducted, and it was truly wonderful to see the students and their excitement and their commitment to excellence in the 4 characters of the National Honor Society. Our students went to the art gallery in Philadelphia and had an opportunity to go into the cast room and explore and actually draw. This was a highlight for many of our students, and many of the pictures that they actually drew, or the sketches that they drew, have become part of their portfolios. And a huge shout out to our faculty, our art faculty at the high school, for organizing, facilitating, and following up on that amazing opportunity for our students. And then, as you've heard with our student councils, this is one of the highlights for philanthropy, and we have multiple snapshots of philanthropy across the district. This is actually our high school field hockey team, and they were supporting the Wistar Institute to raise money for melanoma research. You can see the looks on their faces, and as we go through the next few slides, to see the enjoyment of students giving back to others is amazing. The next slide is our middle school performers taking the stage for Grease, and if you had an opportunity to see that amazing musical production, I thank the middle school drama guild and the advisors and the students who did an incredible job and worked incredibly hard to pull off an amazing performance. It was really interesting knowing that musical and watching our students perform it, and the talent that they exhibited with incredible personality. We had at our middle school Bringing Science to Life, and Mr. Rabindran actually works in the field of science and provided a presentation to our middle school students, Carbon Rings to Clinical Trials. And the feedback from the students was just amazing in bringing science to life, that people actually do this in the real world. So it was interesting to hear their comments, and one of the community members reminded me of the wealth of opportunity we have, that we're surrounded by many, many community members who can bring a lot of real life experiences to our students. Next at the middle school, the Geography Bee, and this was held on January 9th. 15 of our middle school students competed. After 7 preliminary rounds, 6 semifinal rounds, and the final round competition, we had Anish Kodel won the bee. Coming in second place was Rahul Narayanan and Nolan Greenways, placed third. Anish will now take the state qualifying test to see if he can advance to the state B. Interestingly, this B, in the past 26 years, has been in place to promote geography awareness, and the middle school has advanced many students in the past, and we're all crossing our fingers that Anish will keep the Great Valley Middle School Geography trophy alive and well. In General Wayne, we had a family-style lunch, and this was an opportunity for students to eat together as a family. It was really interesting. Mr. Linderman and I, as well as many other folks across the district, had an opportunity to join the students. And when we asked them what they liked best, it truly was about experiencing a family meal with their friends and their teachers. So that is an annual event that is a real highlight for the General Wayne students and staff. As I was sharing with the philanthropy, as you can see the Katie Markley students in the 3rd grade service learning project, where students gave up their free time doing extra chores and things around the house to earn money, in which they donated to foster children. And you heard some of that in their presentation with the Student Council. Also, the Treats for Troops, and you can see, and what I was marveled at, not only during the presentation and in the pictures, but also when you visit Katie Markley, looking at the smiles on the faces of the children in giving. And we truly have a great gift of that throughout our district. Supporting our veterans, and you can see this is also at Katie Markley. This is Donna Ahern's 5th grade class. They collected personal items for homeless veterans. And again, the joy they experienced and the real learning that took place in them realizing that some of our veterans who sacrificed all for our country and the basic things that they needed in supplies, and how they were really honored and happy to do that. Also, 4th grade, the People's Pantry, Church Road, and the Paoli Presbyterian Church, the students raised money, and this was the theme of kindness, and Great Valley chooses kind, and you can see the t-shirts that the students are wearing. There was a large sale for this endeavor, and as you can see, many across the district, myself included, I was actually running on the trail, and I crossed 2 people that were also wearing the same shirt that I was. It was a unifying moment in a rather sweaty endeavor. Upcoming events, and you can see January 24th, and again, if you are ever interested in picking yourself up or changing your mood, there are multiple opportunities to attend many free events across the district. KDM Bingo Night is January 24th, as well as the Sugartown 4th and 5th grade concert. On February 2nd, General Wayne PTO Talent Show, Sugartown Wellness Fair, and the middle school Schuylkill Valley, that is the orchestra concert. And that concert brings students from all over the area into our district. It's being held at the Great Valley High School on February 2nd, and that is an amazing event. Dr. O'Toole will be there as well to greet the students, and our Matt Saracini Mr. Cellini does a great job. This is at the middle school level, and it's a great way to highlight the passion and talent in our district. February 8th, Middle School National Junior Honor Society. The 13th, the High School Winter Concert. February 16th, there is no school for students. It's a teacher in service. And February 19th, school is closed for President's Day. And as we'll be talking a little bit later on the calendar for next school year, just a reminder, the calendar for this school year, if in fact we have a snow makeup day, the snow makeup day will be on February 16th as per the calendar. As the temperatures continue to go up, I am very hopeful that we will actually be able to have a teacher in service day on February 16th. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That's all of the reports for this evening, unless I missed any. Nope. All right, just making sure, just making sure. All right, at this point, I'll open up the podium for public participation of any comments on any agenda items up for voting for this evening. There will also be a public participation section at the end of the meeting for any other comments. If you have a comment, please come to the podium, state your name and residency, and if you could limit your time to 3 minutes, we would appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to address these issues. Also, thank you for your service, since this is School Board Recognition Month. I appreciate your service. I know what it's like, and I appreciate the time and the considerable effort you put into that. Two things that are on the voting agenda for tonight. One, I sent you all an electronic packet of information that I had gathered back in 2008 regarding the Backton Hill property and my concerns about the way it was purchased and comments made by the architect regarding having a community center there, which the school board at that time denied that that was part of the plan, but it seems like it really was. And that raises some concerns in general about what was the intent for the purchase of the land. Secondly was the preliminary study that was done by the same architect that you're being asked to vote on tonight. I sent you the maps of the land and with the schools on them, and there's not a lot of room there. And if you add in the community center, which you're in the process of selling the land for, I don't see how it's possible you're going to put something in there. Also, the land is really not a great place for a school. You got 2 pipelines going through it, and there's a pipeline generation plant across the street. So, I mean, I would recommend that the board table the motion or vote against it for the new architectural study, since I think the board needs to review that process, review the need for that land in the first place, and then review really the feasibility of putting a school there in the first place. I just don't see that that's possible based upon these studies, and I don't think it's really a great place that the public would really embrace for an elementary school. So that's my comment on that item. The second comment is about the vote about the Act 1. Staying within the Act 1 guidelines, I would encourage you to do that. I've said I'd like you to cut taxes, so that would fit in there. Stay below the Act 1. I'd appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, can you hear me? I'm Ted Leisnering, as some of the old board members remember me. I serve with you and I appreciate your service. My address is 2575 Whitehorse Road in Berwyn, PA. I'd just like to follow up on one thing Bruce said and add a couple. I agree wholeheartedly about the Backton Hill property. As a school board member, before I came on the school board, I was very discouraged that this district bought that property. There was no real plan for it and no due diligence done in the purchase. And I have since said numerous times that I think the best action is to sell it. The markets go up, the markets go down. So I think engaging somebody to sell that wasted asset and keep the money is a good idea. Second thing is I would also encourage this board to strongly to stay within Act 1. And I feel that there are sufficient funds with the increased real estate activity, both of the construction of new homes and the revenue is there for this district to live within its means and not raise our taxes. The last point I'd like to make is what's coming up, and that's to go on record as saying that I think in the last contract negotiations with the teachers union, we did a poor job. We just gave it all away again. We're leading all of the other districts down the same road. We're becoming the golden egg that all the teacher union wants to chase everywhere. This time around, we need to set an example for all the other school districts. And in doing so, I would ask that this board nominate a negotiating committee and then be completely transparent to the people, the taxpayers and everybody else who's on the committee. And that committee should not just be the superintendent. You don't let, if you're a public company or a private company or whatever, you just don't let your lead employee negotiate for you. You are there with them. So I would ask that you put a team together, and that I understand you still have Sultanic. He's an excellent lawyer. You work with him and come up with something that's fair, not only for the teachers, but also for the taxpayers. And in that regard, I mean, we've got to see more contribution on the medical benefits side. For a teacher to pay a $5 copay, that's just unrealistic. Nobody else in the United States is paying a $5 copay, or whatever it is. And those are my 3 comments, and I hope you'll take them at heart. I don't mean them in a negative way. I mean them in a very positive way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Dwyer, 10 Stewart Drive, East Whiteland. I would also like to recommend that you stay within the Act 1 guidelines, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I mentioned it last week. I think it's time for this school board to take a look at selling the property on Backton Hill. There's no way you're ever going to build a school there, in my opinion. In addition to that, I've said it before, I'll say it one more time, you should sell the property across the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, excuse me. We'll move into the voting section. First thing up is consent agenda items 7.01 through 7.14. First with the exclusion of 7.08. Have a motion for approval.
Move to approve all except 7.08.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on any of these? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Mary? She's still there?
I'm here, aye.
Oh, thank you. Ayes have it, 7-0. All right, next thing up is a motion for approval of 7.08, financial approval bid to Johnson Controls for the camera system upgrade. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Mary?
Aye.
And I will abstain because I have a conflict. I work for one of their divisions. So the motion passes 6-0 with one abstention. Next thing up is the Act 1 resolution. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. What I would like the board to approve is the accelerated Act 1 opt-out resolution. Do you want me to read it, Mr. President?
I will ask Mr. Secretary what he wants.
So that is to not apply for the Act 1 exceptions.
Stay within the Act 1 index. Oops. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All right. So just to clarify, this is to stay within the Act 1 index. We will not be eligible for exceptions down the road, and we will follow the budgeted timeline associated with the Act 1 index. Motion. Any questions or comments? All right. Seeing none. All those in favor of this motion? Mary?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, 7-0. Motion passes to stay within the Act 1 index. Thank you. Next up is personnel approvals. Motion to approve personnel items.
Move to approve.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Oh, thank you. Any questions on any of these? All those in favor? Mary?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. There's first reading of policies there, and then policies to be repealed. We need to vote on the repeals. The readings are for approval for next month. So do I have a motion for approval of 1002 policies to be repealed?
Move to approve 1002.
A second?
Second.
All right, we had a lot of discussion around these last week. Are there any more questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? Mary?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, the next thing up is the school calendar. Do I have a motion?
I would like to make a motion, please.
Yes.
To accept version B of the school calendar.
All right, motion for version B. Do I have a second?
I would like to have discussion.
Yep, I have motion and a second. You want to? We need a second before the discussion.
I'll second it, but I may not vote for it.
That's okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. So now I'll open it up for discussion for version B. Yeah, let me give an explanation. So version A was discussed and posted last week. There's been some further discussion this week that created version B. Version B eliminates the Act 80 school days / conference days / in-service days that are on the calendar. So therefore, there will be no Act 80 days on the calendar. As a result, certain days fall off the calendar as in-service days or days off. That includes October 17th, which was an in-service day, January 18th, which is an in-service day, April 22nd, which was Easter Monday, and an in-service day, and then May 21st, which was an in-service day and the primary election day for May of 2019, not for this May. So those were the 4 days that would fall off the calendar as in-service days and become full student teaching days. So, any discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand more clearly the difference between the two. I understand the days. The Act 80 days, by removing them, then we're giving the kids back 4 extra days of school, right, which is more equivalent to a standard school year.
So I will let Dr. Speaker Polovensky explain the definition of what an Act 80 day is and why or why not districts use them.
Absolutely. What you'll notice in many calendars, Act 80 is section 1504 and of the Pennsylvania School Code, and it was amended in 1969. It's where the Department of Education, under the Secretary of Education, grants an exception to the 180-day requirement to the daily schedule when, in that opinion, a meritorious educational program warrants. The requirement of the hours of the school year are still met, but the purposes of granting the Act 80 exceptions is as defined to impact and improve the educational system. The activities which are approved for Act 80 exception are parent-teacher meetings, curriculum planning and development, strategic planning, in-service programs dealing with new subjects or activities, dismissal at the start of the school year for partial groups or kindergarten, the administration of professional development assistance program assessment, and the evaluation of graduation projects. Many schools will use Act 80 to build in teacher in-service time or parent-teacher conferences. And originally, they were built into the draft calendar that was presented last week and shared. There was some concern that had been shared with over the last week regarding the reduction of instructional days for students. So that is why the proposed calendar to hold firm to the 180 instructional days for students is the version B that is in front of you.
And I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just so it's out there. So with the version B, there would be 180 instructional days, meaning no, the 4 days would be converted from in-service to instructional. This is where I think I know the answer, but I'm asking anyway. Is there any way to add on additional days for in-service, or are we legally bound by our contract only to have 180?
In the collective bargaining agreement currently, as it is written, there are 190 teacher days and 180 student days. So that is why if you look at the calendar, there are still in-service days, 10 additional from the original 180 of student days. So yes, we are tied to the maximum number of allowance of teacher days.
So we would take 10 days, not 14 days, if we did option B?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like it's pretty important sometimes just to explain thinking, even though it's not fully formed, and I actually don't know which way I'm going to vote yet, but I feel like it's either decision is tough, because I love the idea of teachers having more time in the classroom with the students. However, I do think in-services are valuable, especially as a way to roll out information and make adjustments midway. I also personally feel bad because I feel like when we talked about this last week, there were a lot of big changes. For example, taking away 2 days in the Thanksgiving week, which Great Valley hasn't always done, but in the past few years we have, so people got to expect that. And then I would feel even, worse making another switch and saying, hey, we were going to have these 4 additional days off, and now we're not, because people do plan vacations. And I mean, I do think that education is number one, but I think a lot of education happens outside the classroom. Just calling attention to the days. So January 18th, well, I'll go in order. October 7th, 17th, I don't think there was, that's one of them. Wednesday, okay. January 18th would be around MLK Day, so it'd be the Friday before MLK Day. April 22nd was the day after Easter, which some people celebrate, some people don't. That week is also known as spring break, so it would basically be spring break 5 days plus the additional Monday after. And then one of the more interesting days, I think, is May 21st, which is primary day. Now, I have spoken in this in the past, so I'll say it again. I actually think that we should be open in the schools for primary day, because I think it's great that that it's happening, but I understand that in some schools there's a concern. So if we did vote on version B, that would just be something to be aware of when we're voting. I feel like I've talked too much, so I'm gonna let other people, I still don't know what I'm deciding, but.
I think one of the realities of the situation, and I was asked about the survey that was given, and quite honestly, the survey results were truly split. And just as you had shared, Mrs. Gunderson, as far as where you are with you really don't know, the survey results mirrored that exact sentiment. Some people said they believe it's important for students to be in school, especially on primary election. Others said they don't. Some folks said they think the Thanksgiving having off for a week and then the following month having off for the winter holiday is too disruptive. So I think if nothing else, it definitely reinforces our need to put together a committee, as we talked about in the past, and to do that probably by March and start talking about this for the 1920 school year, because I do believe there are just as many opinions and positions as there are potential days off and on.
What is
So
your recommendation?
my recommendation would be at this point, based upon the feedback that I've heard over the last week, my recommendation would be to go with version B of the calendar. And much of, and I need to say this to the administration, in light of the administration and the faculty and staff, a lot of learning and teacher professional development is happening within the classrooms, within the instructional day. And I am hoping that we can continue to maximize those opportunities to learn as we go.
Can you talk about the philosophy of the district so that I don't butcher it, and what our attitude is about allowing people to take days off for educational experiences? Like, does the district support that, not support that? Like, if somebody wanted to take off the Monday and the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, for example, what would the process be for educational field trips?
That would
And-
all be within our policies, the policy of educational field trips, and they can all be found online. Certainly, the philosophy of the district is to maximize the opportunity that students are in the classroom learning. That said, if there is an opportunity for a student to have an educational experience outside of the classroom, there is a process in place, led through policy, that provides a pre-approval of that opportunity to happen as an excused absence. So to follow that process, and one of the, if you remember, I believe it was in August when we had shared, and then again in September, it was a change in policy that was dictated by the Pennsylvania change in attendance, and that policy required a much more measured response and a very in-depth timeline. And we advised parents to make sure they reviewed that, and I thank you, Mrs. Gunderson, for bringing it up, because it does require pre-approval, where in the past, folks would bring in the paperwork following the absence, and that is a violation of the policy. So I thank you for bringing that up. That is always available, and it is per policy, aligned to the Pennsylvania School Code and law.
I have two questions. One, so we will have, instead of having 14 in-service days next year, we would have 10. I'd like to compare that to this calendar, understand what was planned in this calendar. And then my second question is just clarification around the survey data on Thanksgiving, because there's been a lot of public interest in either having that or not having that. And I wanted to know if we had any numbers on that from the survey, or, either way, a little more clarification.
The calendar this year, we did not use the Act 80 allowance in this current school year.
So how many in-service days did we have this year?
That is 180 student days, 190 teacher days.
Okay, 10
Yes.
If I could just make a comment. So the state determined 180 student days. The Act 80 days, if you actually look at it and you read the list, they're actually factored in for a district who may need them to complete other things. For instance, when we were having our non-compliance for our special education, we could have utilized Act 80 days to be able to do some of what we needed to do to comply. The state says 180 days. Our mission is to do what's in the best interest of our kids. I think we have 10 additional days that have been adequate. We've got great teaching professionals. We have a wonderful administrative staff. I believe wholeheartedly that it is in the best interest of students to keep them in the classroom as much as possible, and that's why I suggested B, if that answers any questions for anyone.
You sold me, Ellen.
Also, real quick, the Act 80 days are not something that's unusual for districts to utilize. Probably if you looked around Chester County, I believe, off the top of my head, looking at their calendars, I think TE, Westchester, Downingtown, Unionville, and Phoenixville all use Act 80 days. I'm not sure about the other schools in the county, but they probably do too. So we're kind of one of the exceptions that doesn't. So it's not like we're discussing something that's just out in left field that nobody else does. This is something that other districts have utilized for different reasons. So the other thing around the Thanksgiving holiday, I've always been passionate about the calendar, half days, whole days, all this stuff. And I have to say that over the years, no matter who you ask and what survey you do, you're always going to get half that want it one way and half that want it the other way. And usually people are speaking without understanding the consequences of that answer. So if you add 2 more holidays somewhere, that may mean that 2 other days are going to go away as holidays, or 2 days at the beginning or the end of the year happen too. So there's no good or bad answer. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just this time around, getting a lot of input from different people in the survey, it was decided next year to move the conference days from Thanksgiving week until 2 weeks earlier in the month to accommodate a true election day, not a primary day, and another day there. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just the decision that was made this time around. So,
Can I ask another quick question? AP exams, been a while since I took them, hope never to take them again. Do they typically start like the second week in May? So this would give us, if we did approve B, this would give us 3 additional days of instruction towards the APs? Yes. Okay.
If I may, my thinking for the calendar, Regina, would be to follow your recommendation based on the assumption that a calendar should represent what's in the best interest of student learning, and certainly take into consideration the safety of those students while they're learning. So we talked a little bit about the primary stay. I think if we can come to an understanding that kids will be safe and we have a plan while voters are voting, that's a surmountable discussion. But this calendar differs from the calendar that last week we sat here and talked about being in the best interest of students. You mentioned feedback that you've gotten and how that feedback has driven some of the change, but certainly not all of the feedback is reflected in the new calendar. So can you say with certainty that this new calendar represents, based on the feedback you've received, what's in the best interest of students and their learning in the year ahead?
Yes, and I think the difference is what's in the best interest of students versus what is in response to the feedback received to make people happy. So for example, there was Samantha and I met with the parent key communicators with Mrs. Blake, and it was mentioned to us that the Monday after spring break would be preferable for families. So that was added into the calendar and of last week and removed. So that's not an impact of student learning, but that certainly creates a challenge for families who travel over spring break, especially the following weekend of the holiday. The other issue is around voting. And this year, our calendar, and we've worked very hard, and I need to say, Mr. Abraham has worked very hard with voter services, each of the buildings, and the folks involved in each of those buildings to come up with a plan to maximize the safety for students, which is our #1 priority, while also meeting the needs of voter services to get the job done that they're responsible to do. So this school year, our students are in school for Election Day. They were in November in school, and they will be in May. Next school year in this proposed calendar, there will be teacher in-service or teacher conferences, parent-teacher conferences on the November gubernatorial election. And then the primary in May with this adjustment, which is not a gubernatorial primary, they will be in school. So we'll use the model that we put in place to maximize the safety of students next May when students are in the building. In November, we can adjust the plan because students will not be in the building. So there were some questions that were asked of Mr. Abraham, in fact, at the end of last week and this week, of can we make an adjustment for the gubernatorial election in November? The answer to that question will certainly be not a problem because students are not in the building. In May, no, we will go back to the plan that was put in place to maximize the safety of students, which requires the designated areas that students do not go into during those times. So that's always our priority, and I know it is a challenge, and as was shared with me, it is an inconvenience to the big people, oftentimes when adjustments are made when students are in school while elections are taking place. We will do what we can do to make it less inconvenient, but again, our #1 priority is making sure our students are safe.
All right, any other questions on the calendar? All right, so we have a motion for approval of the calendar labeled version B, and a second. All those in favor? Mary?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, the motion passes 7-0, thank you. Next up is the approval of the goals that we discussed earlier. Do I have a motion for approval?
Can we go back?
I'm sorry.
In there was actually, in the calendar, which was not done in the original resolution, was 2. There's a second resolution in there, which I've now added
Oh, I'm sorry.
2,
Gotcha.
since we didn't incorporate it in the original. It's for
the
local
yep.
holidays.
All right, so the district is allowed to designate 5 holidays or designated days as local holidays. There's a resolution in here to designate the week of April 15th, so 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 as our local holidays. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any questions around this? All those in favor? Mary?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, so next thing up is the negotiation goals that we mentioned earlier. Do I have a motion for approval of the
Move
goals?
to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, any questions or comments? All righty, all those in favor? Mary?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. All right. All right, that concludes voting section of the meeting. I will now open up the podium for any additional comments on any other subject matter or any other items. Please again state your name and residency, and if you could limit your time to 3 minutes, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Bill Dwyer, 10 Stewart Drive, East Whiteland. Inasmuch as all of you just voted for the approval of the Backton Hill property or studying that up there, what I'd like to see at the next meeting is I'd like to see an explanation from each one of you for what you expect to get out of that property. I think that'll be very interesting to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I left my name out of the first time I spoke. Bruce Chambers, 17 James Thomas Road. I got upset at the last meeting after watching the presentation on the budget, so I thought I'd make some comments about that. I presented to you at the last meeting a summary of the what I described as deceptive budget practices, which basically said that over the last 6 years, our taxes have been raised about 12%, and that was supposed to result in budget deficits of $15 million. But there weren't any deficits. There were surpluses of $8.5 million, which is over a $23 million miss. We hear the board talk about reserve funds, concerned about reserve fund balances, but between 2011 and 2017, you've consistently remained around $22, $24 million in balance. In addition to that, you were able to transfer $4.6 million to the capital reserve fund for capital projects. And during that time, you spent $17 million on capital projects, so it's not like we're short of money. But it gets worse. As we watched the presentation last week, despite admitting that your spending is significantly higher than other districts in the county, including those who do better academically, the administration is proposing a 6% increase in spending next year. This equates to $25,500 per student. This is irresponsible. This budget is $30 million more than it was just 6 years ago. You also say that salaries next year have to go up $900,000 and benefits have to go up $2 million. Really? This is what you get when the school board allows the superintendent to negotiate a 2-year contract with the union. Currently, the number of teachers making over $100,000 has increased 50% from just 2 years ago. Over 1/3 of the teachers now make over $100,000. There are only 45 who are now in the lower salaries between $53,000 and $70,000, which I would hardly consider low. Along with that, 10% raises were given, which I think are ridiculous. Instead of trying to control spending, as you said, you asked for another $6 million next year. And this year, you hired 11 more teachers than were in the budget. I don't understand how that happens, and I don't understand how you as a board allow that to happen. I became a little upset as I watched the administration's budget slideshow, where they showed the, quote, impact of a 2.4% tax increase on the average home. This is irrelevant for putting together a fiscally responsible budget. It has nothing to do with putting together a budget. They try to influence you as a board, think, well, it's not so bad, we'll just raise the taxes that amount. Well, where is the depiction of cutting our taxes by 20% if we just spent the same proportionally as TE? They also love to show the millage rates versus the CPI, Consumer Price Index. This is also irrelevant to putting a budget together. Again, it's meant to influence you to say, well, it's not so bad to raise taxes. But where is the depiction of the spending increases each year versus the CPI? We never see that. And your spending increases have been much higher than the CPI. You also love to show the average annual tax increases and the millage rates by district. These are totally red herring arguments that have nothing to do with putting together a fiscally responsible budget or measuring the effective use of the public's money, more importantly. These presentations are offensive to me and I think the public, and totally irrelevant to what the real world uses for budget planning. The budget presentations by the administration are designed to scare the board and the public with deficits and to convince you that taxpayers can and should be willing to afford tax increases. They don't justify their spending by showing what improvements we will get by spending more. What have we gotten? for $30 million more than we spent just 6 years ago. They just say, give us more money because we need it. There's no justification. There is no attempt to control spending. As I said last week, the property owners deserve a tax cut, not a tax increase, because we've been subject to these crazy budget presentations and irresponsible spending for years. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other public comments, any other board comments?
I'd like to make a comment to my colleagues and the administrative team if I could. So we are in the budget cycle, and every year since I've been on the board and for 17 years that I sat out in the audience, the process was always the same. The budget was built from the beginning, and we went over things, and budget was put together. Board made comments, as we did last week at the meeting, and my understanding, and I just want to make sure that my understanding for when we come back in February is correct. So the board heard the budget presentation and made recommendations that the pencils get sharpened, and when we come back, the presentation will reflect some of the things that Mr. Barrett and some of the other colleagues had done. And that is what I'm looking forward to seeing when we come back. So I just want to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding what we're waiting for in February. So when we come back in February, we will be looking at the administrative team's restructure of what we saw last week. Is that correct? So we are still working on this, and it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. That was the first presentation of the budget. In February, we'll have the Finance Committee meeting, and it will be a much larger dive, and will continue to be as directed, paying attention to those areas that we were directed to pay attention to. That is my understanding as well, Mrs. Brown.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the goal was to have our treasurer work with Chuck to make sure that by the time we get to February, that all that's incorporated into some of that, so, and then refine from there.
And I do know that there's a lot more that goes into this than what anybody sees here twice a month in our meetings. Our meetings are basically, these are meetings for the board to do our work. And I know that sometimes everything is not being able to be seen at one time. And I will tell you that no matter where we start and where we end up, since it's Board Member Appreciation Month, and I'm going to take advantage of this, it is really difficult to do a difficult job when you're in a fishbowl. This administrative team puts in a lot of work, and the fact that sometimes we are not respectful when some of us speak or comment is not okay with me. I know this administration is working really hard to meet the goals that this board has been putting in public in front of you, and I truly appreciate it. And I apologize for any taxpayers' need to minimize the work of this administrative team. And as a board member, I can't sit here and not say anything. So administrative team, I apologize for sometimes what you have to hear. And I look forward to coming back at the next board meeting and seeing how you are accepting the challenges that this board put in front of you last week. Thank you.
All right. Other comments? All right, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Mary? Hope you feel better.
For Mary. Thank you, Mary.